Hey, welcome to the Motormouth YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And this is a little snapshot, an EV update, because what did we receive this week?
Yeah, well, we got a couple studies. J.D. Power in the US released a study on electric vehicle ownership experience, and it was in collaboration with PlugShare. So there's some interesting data on that. And then the Canadian study is about kind of future consideration of electric vehicles.
Yeah, so are you considering buying an EV? But before we get into the two studies, I did a little bit of digging and looked up what the actual percentages of EV sales are in Canada and the US, and they've kind of leveled off very close to each other. So just a little snapshot for American viewers. In Canada, we used to have a rebate of $5,000. The federal government got rid of that. And then in other provinces, the other rebates have gone away, like here in British Columbia, and it's down 50% in the province of Quebec, and these are the two biggest areas for EV adoption. So sales of EVs have gone from double digits down to single digits as a percentage of overall vehicles, and in the United States and Canada, they're hovering between 6 to 7%.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton. I think also the political environment is contributing to this as well, especially in Canada with the federal EV rebate of $5,000 that is now gone. And then also from province to province, it's changing. And some provinces are offering a rebate, others not so much. And then, of course, with the Trump administration in the US saying that maybe tax credits will go away and funding for charging infrastructure as well. So that definitely is going to have an impact. And in Canada, on that J.D. Power survey, people who are considering an electric vehicle are disappointed that the federal rebate is gone.
People like free stuff, Andrea. They're like, hey, if you can carve $5,000 off the purchase of my new car, I'm down for that. Well, that EV tax credit in the United States is moving through legislation now for it to be eliminated. So it's any day now.
And also, you know, this Canadian J.D. Power study shows that less than half of Canadians considering an EV compared to Americans. So more Americans are considering it, but it's interesting to see the sales that they are quite small. And J.D. Power in the US predicts that sales between 2025 and 2024 will be flat in the US.
Yeah, well, we're seeing it flattening out. EV sales, just because I know a lot of people are going to pound on their keyboard, EV sales worldwide is continuing to grow, okay? Especially driven by the massive Chinese market with a massive number of EVs in their marketplace from different brands. So EV sales are growing. They're just not growing at the rate car companies had hoped, especially in jurisdictions like North America. So let's jump into the studies.
Interestingly enough, these studies show that traditional brands are kind of leaping forward when it comes to considering an electric vehicle. In the Canadian study, so that's the Canadian market, it shows that Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Ford, and Chevrolet are rounding out the top 5 for consideration.
Wait, what happened to Tesla, Andrea?
Well, Tesla has dropped to 8th place. And over the past 4 years of this Canadian study, Tesla has been 1st and 2nd. So that's a big drop for Tesla. And that, once again, has to do with the political environment.
Yes, and we're seeing this. I did a quick search of Tesla sales, and all throughout Europe, you're seeing a massive drop in terms of Tesla ownership. The exception is Norway. Norway's had a spike because I guess people there were waiting for the new Model Y to arrive, but sales have dropped across many jurisdictions in reaction to tariffs and Donald Trump's posturing on things. And Tesla, unfortunately, is taking it on the nose because Elon Musk's association with the government. But in Canada, to go from 1st place to 8th place in a few short months is a marked change. And there was a video we did recently, Andrea. I said the timing couldn't be better for General Motors stacking up with all of these new EVs, whether it's the Equinox, the Blazer, the Optic, the Lyric, and what's the new one from Cadillac, the 3-row. Anyway, there's lots of different ones.
And, you know, even Toyota, like they have put a lot of money on the hood for the BZ4X. We actually see quite a few of those in Canada, and now they've updated that model. So Toyota being up there, Ford being up there, of course, Hyundai and Kia with a huge portfolio of electric vehicles.
And more coming.
And more coming. So they're really pushing forward with electric vehicles. And I think that price is a factor for people. I think we can all agree with that. Electric vehicles are quite expensive for the average person. In the US, since this study focuses on owner experience and satisfaction, these are your top picks right now. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 ranks highest in the mass market battery electric segment, followed by the Kia EV6 and Chevrolet Equinox EV. In the luxury category, it's the BMW iX ranks highest overall, followed by the BMW i4, then the Rivian R1S, and the Tesla Model 3. And also in these studies, it shows that non-luxury brands are beating luxury brands when it comes to electric vehicles, which makes sense because the luxury brands are expensive.
Yeah, but you would kind of think that, it's already baked in. It's already expensive. So you're going to spend a little more and get an EV. Anyway, people seem to be very price sensitive around EVs because when you get rid of EV rebates in any jurisdiction around the world, as soon as the EV rebates disappear, we saw this in Germany just over a year or so ago, sales tanked because of it. And now that we've got EV rebates disappearing in Canada, we're seeing the numbers have gone from nationally around 12% down to about 6%. So a 50% roughly, these are rough estimates, roughly a 50% reduction in EV adoption.
And in these studies, it's showing that people considering an electric vehicle is at 28% for 2025. Last year, it was at 29%. Not a huge difference. But in 2023, it was up at 34%. So more interest. In the US, the interest is at 59%.
That's very high. I find
very
that
high.
like it's kind of interesting because in the United States, as a percentage of sales, EVs have always been laggards behind other jurisdictions. And then you're telling me that 59% are considering,
interested,
yes,
likely
whether
to
they're actually
consider.
buy one or not. It's not a chance 60% of people are going to buy EVs, but at least they're looking at it. But there you go. That's what we're up against. And then you add in Canada, they got rid of the carbon tax, which brought the price of fuel down. And that's maybe people are going, well, maybe I don't need an EV now.
And British Columbia and Quebec in Canada, they were always a more popular choice for consumers to purchase electric vehicles. First off, the rebates in Quebec. In British Columbia, gas prices are so high that it makes sense for a lot of people. They get sick and tired of buying gas at that price point.
I just wanted to jump in on that. So I saw recently the numbers, for example, I'm just going to talk about where we live in British Columbia, very high EV adoption. And when the rebates were in place, it was running around 23, 24%. EV rebates have gone, dropped down, still very stable though at about 15%. So a big chunk of the lifting for EVs is coming from a place like BC.
Now, some key findings in the US J.D. Power study shows that 94% of people who own an electric vehicle will probably go back to an electric vehicle, will purchase again. And that brings up the point of brand loyalty. If you get a person into your electric vehicle, you treat them well at the dealership level, there aren't a lot of problems with the vehicle, more than likely you're going to get them back. There's a lot of brand loyalty to capture. Other findings, people believe that there could be more education done at the dealership level, helping people understand electric vehicles better. Charging woes are still present, although improved. And we hear about that when you're charging on the road, and are the chargers going to work? How many are available on your route? And also consumers are considering plug-in hybrids as an alternative.
So it's interesting in the Chinese market where the biggest number of EVs are sold, plug-in hybrids are very popular. Like they kind of almost equal in terms of popularity, whether they're plug-ins or full electrics or what they call extended range electric vehicles, which means there's a generator on board creating electricity. So we're going to see, it's going to be interesting to watch here as the reduced enthusiasm for electric vehicles runs head on into these zero emission mandates. You might be aware that the federal government in the United States is trying to tell California you can't have your own regulations around EVs. And the California rules mimic very closely many jurisdictions in Canada. So that's to have zero emission vehicles by 2035. Well, the study even said the people don't think it's going to happen, right?
Well, in Canada, 75% of people who are interested in purchasing a new vehicle do not believe that the Canadian government's target of zero emissions by 2035 is achievable.
Well, that's the same as California. That's their target.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these lofty ambitions are going to have to be rolled back. And you might not be aware there's penalties involved. If car companies don't hit these targets, then they're going to be penalized, which means the customer is going to be penalized in terms of costs. So, like I said, the waning enthusiasm for EVs is going to run headlong into the mandates, and there's going to have to be something that changes. They can't add $20,000 onto a cost of a vehicle. People, that's just not sustainable.
I also want to point out that the study in the US was from August of 2024 to December of 2024. That's where they got their data. And then in Canada, it was a really short study, actually, but still interesting data to share. And that was from March 2025 to April 2025, just a couple of months. But you can see how it is shifting. I do wonder with the province of Quebec adding the rebate back in, if that's going to change things for them with their numbers. But then you don't have that federal rebate anymore. So you're not getting that huge rebate that maybe they were expecting to bring the cost down.
Well, you just look at any jurisdiction where rebates are decreased, sales go down. So I don't see it getting better. If you're not aware, in the province of Quebec, the rebate was dropped in half.
Yeah.
And then come Jan 1, so just basically 6 months from now, it's going to drop in half again. So it's going to be down to almost zero.
And I also want to add those plug-in hybrid electric vehicles that consumers are interested actually in luxury brands in that category. And I think that kind of makes sense because you're looking at these luxury brands coming out with more range, like the Mercedes-Benz GLC plug-in hybrid has a lot more range. And some people might find like, hey, from day to day, I can have a pretty clean drive. I can stay within that range, charge every night, and when I'm on the road,
I don't need a level 2 charger.
I don't need a level 2, and when I hit the road, if I want to drive it in hybrid, I can.
You can go long distance.
Yeah.
So is that a wrap, Andrea? I think we covered all the points. That's the update.
Did.
EVs are selling. There's not as much enthusiasm around them. The numbers have kind of flatlined. Rebates are going away for most jurisdictions in North America, and it's going to run headlong into these ZEV mandates. That's basically the State of the Union.
Now, we're going to leave the links below on the US and the Canadian study if you want to drill down a little bit more.
And you're going to type below, I know. Let us know what you think. I know we're going to get a lot of EV owners who pile on and say, I don't think your studies are correct. Not our study.
Yeah.
And the numbers are the numbers. The sales of EVs has definitely decreased. Those are just the facts. So let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We always forget to ask.
We always forget to ask. Please subscribe. Zach and I do a lot of different content. We talk about this kind of stuff. We do different surveys. And then we do full-length reviews of vehicles, new vehicles.
That's why it's going to come up right now. Motormouth, couple car reviews. Bye-bye.